we need to know how our constitution have evolved. Now try to understand that when the constitution came into existence. Okay, just have an idea. After independence, the government have set up I told you that in the initial class that our constitution is a written constitution. One of the features of a written constitution is that it is an enacted constitution. It is an enacted constitution. It is enacted by a body called as Constituent Assembly. Constituent Assembly. Now regarding the Constituent Assembly was set up, the date is not important, after the independence, and the drafting committee of the Constituent Assembly headed by Dr. Ambedkar completed the drafting of the constitution, and finally the constitution was adopted. These two dates are very important. The constitution was adopted on 26th November 1949. This date is very important. The constitution was adopted on 26th November 1949, and the constitution came into existence. The commencement of the constitution is on the 26th January 1950. So constitution came into existence. The commencement of the constitution is on 26th January. That's why on this day we celebrate as Republic Day, because on this date our country became republic. Okay, so regarding these two dates are important. On 26th November, constitution was adopted, and on 26th January 1950, it came into existence. When the constitution came into existence on 26th January 1940, there were around, we had a preamble. We'll discuss what is a preamble. It's an introduction. We have a preamble. We had 22 parts. I told you our constitution is a written constitution. It's a systematically arranged constitution, a codified constitution. So we had a preamble. We had 22 parts. We had around 395 articles, and we had 8 schedules. Okay, be very clear. When the constitution came into existence, we had a preamble, 22 parts, 395 articles, and 8 schedules. Now, as of now, presently, we have a preamble, we have 25 parts, we have more than 450 articles, and we have 12 schedules. So this is the present. UPSC will ask, I have already asked once, the number of parts of our constitution, number of schedules of our constitution, number of articles of our constitution. Be very clear. Now we have more than 450 articles. The latest articles is inserted by GST Council, that 101st Constitutional Amendment Act. We have 25 parts and 12 schedule. When the constitution came into existence, we had only 22 parts and 8 schedule. Now 25 parts and 12 schedules. So now you need to know how our part 22 part became 25 part, and how 8 schedule became 12 schedule. That how it has happened, that's very important for you. How the constitution have added or made amended or changes, you need to be very clear. Now we will see that, okay. Regarding the how 22 parts became 25 parts, we'll discuss regarding it. Regarding the parts, so earlier there were 22 parts, but the 7th Constitutional Amendment 1956 have repealed part 7 and part 9. So 2 parts were repealed by 7th Constitutional Amendment Act 1956. Now what is this part 7 and part 9 is all about? Part 7 talks about 3 category of states. Part A state, Part B state, and Part C state. Part A talks about larger state. Part B talks about larger princely state. Part C talks about smaller state. So try to understand, after the commencement, once the constitution came into existence, the state were classified into different different category, larger state, larger princely state and smaller state. Then the government the parliament felt that this classification is not good by distinguishing states in different format. So it was decided that this classification will be avoided or abolished, and we will have a simple category of states, one type of category of states. So the parliament through 77th Constitutional Amendment Act have repealed and made, now the present, if you see, we don't say that larger state or smaller states, we say that we have 29 states in India. That's because 7th Constitutional Amendment Act 1956 have abolished classifying states into larger or smaller or larger princely state like that. So now Part 7 were repealed by 7th Constitution. Repealed means removed, deleted from the Constitution. Then Part 9, it was about a category of certain area called Part D area, which were dealing with Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So Andaman and Nicobar Islands was dealt by separate part under Part 9. That also was removed. Now Part Andaman is dealt under Union Territory category. So after the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act, now we have, earlier there were 22 parts, now 2 parts were removed or repealed, now we have only presently, now the present is, now after 7th Constitutional Amendment Act we have 20 parts. Then slowly, after quite some period, during the Indira Gandhi time, that is especially during the emergency time, 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act were passed. It's very important. 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976 were passed. Through this amendment, 2 important parts were added. So 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act added 2 important parts, that is Part 4A and Part 14A. Part 4A deals with fundamental duties, which we will be discussing later. Part 14A deals with tribunals. So now we are having 22 parts after 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Then 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1992 inserted Part 9. So be very clear, now Part 9 were blank, means it's repealed. Part 9 was vacant. So 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1992 have inserted Part 9, that is regarding Part 9 it is Panchayat. So a new part were introduced for Panchayats through 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. Now we have 23. Now 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, 74th Constitutional Amendment Act 1992 inserted Part 9A. Part 9A, which talks about municipalities. So after the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, we were having 24 parts. The 2 new parts were Part 9 and Part 9A, which are very 2 important parts. Part 9 deals about Panchayat, Part 9A deals about municipalities. The last part or the latest part which was inserted through this Constitutional Amendment Act is also very important. 97th Constitutional Amendment Act 2011, which inserted a Part 9B called as cooperatives. So this is how the part have evolved. From Part 22, it was reduced to 20, that is Part 7 and Part 9 are removed. Then 42nd Constitutional Amendment added 2 parts, Part 4A and Part 14A. 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act added Part 9. 74th Constitutional Amendment Act added Part 9A. 97th Constitutional Amendment Act have added Part 9B. So now we are having 25 parts. But if you see, I told you, ours is a written constitution, our constitution is codified. So if you look the PM Bakshi or you see our study material, if you see the part 1 to latest part, you can see only the number part 1 and the last part is part 22. So if you see the number, you can see only part 1 to part 22. It doesn't mean that there is only 22 part. It's because the new part were inserted in between, because our constitution is codified and it has to be kept at the proper place, appropriate place. So that's why part 4A, part 14A, part 9A like that were added. And then part 9B. So be very clear that we don't have any part number part 23. Part is, if you see the constitution, the first starting part is part 1, ending part is part 22, but actually we have 25 parts. Reason is ours is a written constitution, ours is a systematically arranged constitution. That is regarding the part. Now we will see the what happened to the schedules. Be very clear, the schedules also, when the constitution came into existence, there were only 8 schedules. Presently, when the constitution came into existence, there were only 8 schedules. Presently, we have 12 schedules. So 9th schedule, 10th schedule, 11th schedule and 12th schedule were inserted after the commencement of the constitution. We already dealt it when we discussed schedules, but I am just repeating. 9th schedule were inserted by first Constitutional Amendment Act 1951. It was a prelims question. UPSC asked a question, which Constitutional Amendment Act have inserted 9th schedule? It was first Constitutional Amendment Act. First Constitutional Amendment Act have inserted 9th schedule. Now regarding the 10th schedule, it was inserted by 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1985. 11th schedule is inserted by 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1992. 12th schedule is added by 74th Constitutional Amendment Act 1992. We already discussed this. One is regarding protecting certain laws from judicial review. 10th is anti-defection, 11th is panchayat, 12th is municipalities. So that's how our schedules have evolved. Our schedules have evolved from earlier it was only 8, now it is presently 12. So be very clear. Now we are having a preamble, 25 parts, more than 450 articles and 12 schedule. That's regarding how the constitution have evolved. Now we'll see it. There is one question. There is a question on this regarding this topic. There is a question. See the question number 3. Question number 3 says that 3 statement question. It says that the Constitution of India has 20 parts. The Constitution of India has 20 parts. We know that how many parts we are having? Now we are having 25 parts. But when the Constitution came into existence, we had 22 parts. Okay, so the first statement is wrong. If you know first statement is wrong, use elimination. Choice A is wrong. Why? 1 is there. So you can eliminate choice A and choice D. Now the answer is between choice B and C, either 2 or 3 only. There are 390 articles in the Constitution of India in all. It's saying that there are only 390 articles. We know it, we are having more than 450 articles. At the time when the Constitution came into existence, it was 395. Never in our history we had 390 articles. That is also wrong. So without knowing the third statement, we got answer. Now we see the third statement. 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th schedule were added to the Constitution of India by the Constitutional Amendment Act. Yes, that is correct, because when the Constitution came into existence, there were only 8 schedules. The 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th schedule were inserted to our Constitution by Constitutional Amendment Act. We discussed that. Okay, so that's, see the pattern of question, then things will become easy. So this is regarding how our parts and schedules have evolved in relation to our Constitution. Thank you.